Well, good evening. Welcome to Grover Hill Zion United Methodist Church, where we have Thursday evening devotions from around the kitchen table. And for several months now, we've been talking about the history and the story behind some of our great hymns of the church, our great hymns of faith, and why they were written, and some of the circumstances behind why the authors penned those hymns for us to sing and to enjoy. And of course those songs help to bring us into God's presence, and they speak to our hearts and our minds and our souls as well, and they just reassure us and give us comfort. Well, the hymn we're looking at tonight is a fairly new one. It was written in 2002. It's called In Christ Alone. In our Zion worship book, it's number 52 in our Zion worship book. Perhaps you can hear it playing in the background. It was written by Stuart Townend. Townend grew up in a Christian family in West Yorkshire, England. There his father was a vicar in the Church of England. The Townend family enjoyed music in their family life, and Stuart Townend, when he was just 7 years old, began playing the piano. Now today he's known and respected by musicians and worship leaders throughout Great Britain and even beyond, even here in the United States. His involvement in Christian music dates back now over 30 years now. During this time, Townend has used his talents to produce albums for British-based worship leaders such as John Pantry, Keith Rutledge, Sue Rinaldi. Perhaps you've heard some of those, and there are some more, of course. But it's perhaps in songwriting that Townsend has made his most enduring contribution to contemporary Christian music. Songs such as How Deep the Father's Love, My First Love, The King of Love, Who Paints the Skies, and many, many more. Now, our favorites in thousands of churches around the world. And now one of his latest works, In Christ Alone, seems like it is taking its place among other great Christian classics, both in the United Kingdom and in the United States. Written in 2002, In Christ Alone was a collaborative effort between Townend and a fellow songwriter by the name of Keith Getty. And the woman singing the song is his wife, Kristen Getty. Now the song came about in an unusual way, Townsend tells us. He said Keith and he met in the autumn of 2000 at a worship event, and they resolved to try to get together to work on some songs. And he said that a few weeks later that Getty sent some melody ideas, and the first one on the CD was magnificent. It was a haunting melody that Townsend said he just loved it, and immediately started to write down some lyrical ideas on what he felt should be a timeless theme commensurate with the melody. And so the theme of this life, death, and resurrection of Christ, and the implication of that for us just began, or what it means just for us, just began to tumble out. And when he said when we got together later to work on fine-tuning it, we felt that we had really encapsulated what we wanted to say. And beginning with the song, some of what they wrote is, In Christ alone my hope is found. He is my light, my strength, my song. This cornerstone, this solid ground, firm through the fiercest drought and storm. Townsend and Getty both admit that they were motivated by the idea of capturing biblical truth in songs and in hymns that will not only cause people to express their worship in church, but will build them up in their Christian lives as well. Townsend continues that he's been amazed at the response to this song. He said, we've had some incredible emails about how people have been helped by this song through its incredibly difficult circumstances. One email describes how a U.S. soldier serving in Iraq a few years ago would pray through each verse of the song every day, and how the promises of God's protection and grace helped to sustain him through the enormous pressures and dangers of life in a war zone. And it seems like this song is timely, Townsend continues, that we in the West have had our sense of safety and security brutally torn apart by recent world events. And he writes that because this song was written shortly after 9/11 in 2001 had occurred. Today, it's certainly applicable today, in our world today, isn't it? It seems like our world is more dangerous today than it's ever been. And he says, I feel that this song helped to stir faith in many believers that God is really our protector and that our lives are in His unshakable hands. And then he adds some more words to his song, saying that what heights of love, what depths of peace, what fears are stilled in striving cease. My comforter, my all in all, here in the love of Christ I stand. Well, since its initial creation in 2002, several versions of In Christ Alone have been recorded by artists around the world. And Townsend says that the one that really moves him the most is the one that they recorded with a congregation of 8,000 at Stoneleigh Bible Week in England. He said that when we finished the third verse about the resurrection of Christ, there's an extraordinary burst of praise from the congregation that at the time was overwhelming. And then listening back still sends shivers down my spine, he says. And I think that it is vitally important to our corporate worship. Sometimes great melodies are let down by indifferent or cliched words, but it is the writer's job to dig deep into the meaning of scriptures and express in poetic and memorable ways the truth he or she finds there, knowing that the truth about God and who we are in Him is central to our lives as believers. Songs remain in the mind in a way sermons do not. Isn't that true? We know the words of many songs and we don't remember sermons, even though sermons may inspire us and uplift us. So songwriters have an important role and a huge responsibility. And then he adds some more words to his song toward the end in the fourth verse. No guilt in life, no fear in death. This is the power of Christ in me. From life's first cry to final breath, Jesus commands my destiny. He continues, the lyric of this song excites me because it places our hope, our assurance, our destiny in the right place. On the solid foundation of Christ, I know in my own life I need reminding continually not to live by my feelings or by my circumstances, but by the unchanging truth of the gospel. And he ends his song, no power of hell, no scheme of man can ever pluck me from his hand till he returns or calls me home. Here in the power of Christ I stand. I encourage you to look that song up and listen to it, and you'll be blessed for it. Well, have a great and blessed week.
No power of hell, no scheme of man can ever pluck me from his hand till he returns or calls me